Hi, of course it cut me off, right? Some update happened, so I'm not going to re-record, and like I told you guys, I'm low tech for this, so I'm just going to, this is just going to be like part two, just to wrap up this PowerPoint. So, like I was talking about ethno-linguistics, so there's actually a really good movie that, gosh, it came out, well, at this point, probably like a decade ago. It's called Arrival, and it's with Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams, and I highly recommend it. I don't want to have any spoilers, so you should definitely watch it, but there's definitely a part of this movie where they go into like culture and language and perception. Oh, and I think the example I was going to give you before the video cut out was, think about how the words we use around time are a really good example. So we might say phrases like, back in the past, or the future's forward in front of us, like things like that, right? I'm looking forward to the future. So that's kind of referencing time as being very linear, and also you're kind of traveling towards the future, right? You're looking at the future. But there are plenty of cultures where maybe it's still linear, but it's the opposite. They're like, oh, well, I can see the past. I already lived it. I know what happened. So that's I'm kind of traveling this way. And so the future is this way. I can't see it. I don't know what the future holds. So it's still linear, but it's a completely different perspective. And so the phrases you would use, if that's the way in your population you conceptualize time, the phrasing, all of the the cultural expressions are going to be completely different. And then what if your culture, the time is seen as like circular, the phrases you would use, and so then it's like is the phrasing influencing the what am I trying to say? Like, are the actual experiences influencing the language, or vice versa? And it's a very interesting topic. Like I said, we could spend a lot of time, but this is not a linguistics course. So, and then the next one, historical linguistics versus, I just have into historical linguistics. So this is just kind of referencing before what we talked about with the archaeology, right? If you have a written record, this is always really useful. And I also have an example here on the PowerPoint slide where it's on the lower left corner, and I'll tell you now, you might be looking at that thinking, what is that? It's a different language. It's English, and it's not even from that long ago. I think this was like 500 or 600 years ago, and so this is English. Now, if I tell you that's the Lord's Prayer, you would be like, okay, and you kind of pick through, like, I could see a couple words, I could see how that would make sense, right? But this is just how language changes so quickly, and depending on, of course, if there are many influences, it's going to change even faster, right? Pretty interesting. The next slide, some important concepts in anthropology. Like I mentioned this phrase earlier, the four-field approach. A lot of anthropologists, a lot of departments will emphasize this. Basically, like they'll say, like, as a good anthropologist, you should be looking at all of these different perspectives: cultural, bio, archaeology, and I would say like 95% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time, that usually works. It's really good to look at more than just your one, little subfield. But sometimes, let's say, as an example, in paleo, we don't really have, linguistics is not really part of that, right? Because we don't have any evidence of, we can say, oh, we think language started here or there, but that we have no written record, we have no spoken word, we have nothing that we can really reference for that. So exceptions to the rule sometimes. But the idea of, as a good anthropologist, you're going to be looking at all these aspects of humanity is totally legitimate. And then the next slide, probably the most important concept in anthropology, and what really separates anthropology from other similar fields like sociology is a good one. What separates us is that we have a strong emphasis, really the main emphasis of whether it's cultural, whether it's bio, is on evolution. Now in this class, we're going to be talking about the very strictly biological definition and application of what evolution is. But in terms of change through time, in a simplistic way, we still see that with culture, we still see that with archaeology, we still see that with linguistics, right? So that's the underlying principle for our entire field of anthropology, is humans and evolution. Okay, so that wraps up that particular one. Hopefully the next one doesn't cut out and it'll just be a nice seamless PowerPoint. or recording, and I'll see. Hopefully, I'm sure you guys will see the evolution of me as I record these, and these get a little bit better, a little bit better. I'm in the lab because I want to have the whiteboard, but I know it kind of echoes a little bit, so the sound quality, this isn't like $1 million production, right? So you guys can work with me on this, but like I said, I will see you in class for the lab days, and we will be able to, you guys can ask me questions, clarity, any of that. But okay, see you guys on the next one.